Hello everyone and welcome to a scrapbook layout process video, and today I'm going to be using SVG cuts. So I have cut elements on my Cricut using close to my heart SVG cuts, and I have based today's layouts on the actual page layout that comes within the SVG files. I have two double page spreads to show you. One of them I'm going to assemble on camera today, and you can see by what I've got in front of me here I have some SVG cuts that I've given additional treatments to. So I'm going to take you through how I achieved this look. And what I wanted to talk to you about was the actual digital art collections. So when you look at the catalogue with Close to My Heart, with the two collections that they put out with each of their catalogues, now while this is the last catalogue from Close to My Heart, you can go back to previous catalogues and purchase digital art collections. There will be quite a few that will still be available on the website. And what I do when I look at the digital art collections is look at all the elements on here. You can see there are some gorgeous floral elements. 4 of these are used in this layout that I'm doing today. There is always a scrapbook layout. It might be a double page spread or a single page spread. Sometimes there are card layouts as well. And when you bring something like this in, it comes in all in one piece and it's grouped together. And then you can manipulate it to how you want it to look on your layouts. So what I've done is brought this one SVG in and then ungrouped it, and then there are all these other elements on here that I can use either in this double page spread as it's designed to be made, or I can use it on other projects. Now the thing that I loved about this was this lattice type overlay. So I've cut 2 of these, and I'll give you fair warning on this, it does take a little while to cut out. Now I use a Cricut, but any machine that uses an SVG file will be able to cut this out. So I've actually cut 2 of these. One I've already gone ahead and adhered to my page, and the other I'm going to do on camera with you today, just to show you how much adhesive you do need to use with this. It's not as much as you think you need. The other reason why I wanted to get this kit, apart from the gorgeous floral elements here, are the photo mats. You can see they have a rounded corner, an inverted rounded corner on each edge of the photo mats. That is a pretty cool design. And the other layout that I'm going to show you is based on the Let's Go Anywhere digital art collection. So you can see this one has a double page spread as well, and it has an overlay, and all these other elements come within the digital art kit as well. And as I said before, you can separate these items out and use them on other projects if that's what you wish. I think the arrow overlay, I'm not sure if it's picking up too much on camera, but you can see there's lots of arrows cut out of this. That would be really good for a sports page as well as travel pages. So I have a little bit to show you today with the treatment of the floral elements. I'm going to show you some of those. And I'm also going to adhere this piece to my white daisy. Now I'm using the light side of Shortbread. I didn't go down the pink on pink path. I quite like the Shortbread color. And instead of using glue, I'm going to use my dot roller here, and my all-purpose mat will pick up any excess of dot roller, and I'm able to remove that very easily from the all-purpose mat. So I've just done a few little sections around the outside of the frame. And then I'm just going to put a few little pieces of dot roller on these thicker pieces of the trellis that are running diagonally across. And that's going to be enough to adhere this piece down. I don't need a whole lot of adhesive. There's going to be elements that will go over top of this. So just a minimal amount of adhesive. You don't have to worry about adhering all those fine little lattice pieces there that you can see. And I'm putting the light side of Shortbread onto white. I've decided to follow this quite closely. I quite like the layout of these photos, and it's something that I do in my regular scrapbooking with multiple photos on a double page spread and room to put flip-flaps on there as well. I'm just going to rub off any additional adhesive that is here, and then I'm going to lay these pieces out so that I can work out where the floral elements are going to go. So I have a 4x6 or a 6x4 photo going across the bottom, and then 3 photos coming across the top here. And I'm going to adhere those down. But first what I want to do is dress up my floral elements. I've got a grip mat here. I'm just going to put that off to the side. What this does for me, it's a Tim Holtz grip mat. When I'm using ink pads, I can put my ink pad down and then I'm able to use my tools, and you can see it doesn't move at all. So it keeps the ink pad in a nice position for me. I'll just bring in the ones that I have prepared earlier and leave them on this white sheet here. I'm going to start off with the yellow flower here. I've got the light side of honey butter and the dark side of honey butter. So I'm going to bring in honey butter to start with. I'm just going to wipe this off a bit because I was using a darker yellow before, and I'm going to do that again. So I'm just going to ink this up and come in off the edge for my base layer. So this is this background piece here. Don't want to come in too much because I do want a difference to show between this top layer and the bottom layer, because one is the light side and one is the dark side. And then for this one, what I'm going to do is come in with honey butter and darken this up quite a bit. And I'm going to come in at the top as well. So I'm basically deepening that dark side of honey butter, or the true side of honey butter, up even more. And then I want to deepen up this piece at the base here. So I'm bringing in Sundance ink and using the same blending brush. And I'm coming in with a bit of a deeper colour with Sundance. And you can see that's giving quite a bit more depth to this. And then when I layer these up on top of each other, you can see I've got some shading going on at the top of this base part of the flower, and also at the base of here and the top of this. And I've also done this with this cone flower here. I've gone deeper on this area at the top and faded it out so that the tips of the petals are a lighter colour. And then I'm going to give this a little bit of a treatment with a shimmer brush. You can see I've been doing a lot of playing and blending. I'm going to bring in a yellow shimmer brush. This isn't honey butter. It might actually be lemonade, or it could be lemon. I've had this one for quite some time. I'm giving it a good shake so the shimmer moves around, and then when I pull it apart, I'm holding from the ends. I don't want to hold down here because that could unscrew this part of the barrel. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the ink. Oh, I've got quite a bit there. So quite a bit of shimmer brush there, and then I'm holding my brush fairly close to the floral elements that I want to have the splatter on, and I'm just tapping that lightly, and then I'll set this aside to dry off a little bit before I adhere these two pieces together. And for the pink floral elements, I've done exactly the same thing, but I've cut these out of Flamingo paper. It's the light side on the base piece and the dark side on the bit that goes on the top. And for the inking for this one, instead of using Flamingo, I've brought in Rosy because I wanted more of a contrast. So I'm just going to put these pieces over here, and then I'm going to work on the leaf section. Now these ones here are cut in sage, and I've used the dark side of sage. Just going to go into an area here on this paper where there's no ink. I'm going to come in with sage ink and my blending brush, and I just want to deepen up the bottom section here of this leaf. So I'm just dragging the ink off the edge here up into the edge of the leaf. You can see I'm getting a little bit of definition here. So you can go as light-handed or as heavy-handed as you want. You can actually do a pouncing, which gives you more of a speckled look. But I'm just trying to get a little bit more ink on the underside of that leaf and then down this part of the stem. And then I'm coming in with my sage shimmer brush. I'm going to shake this one up as well, paint a little bit, see if I can get enough of what I need on here without actually squeezing the barrel. I think that should be enough. And then I'm just tapping this fairly close so that I can control where the splatter is going. And I really love how that looks on there. And then the other leaves that I have done here are actually out of pine. Now I have already done these leaf sprigs. You can see I've got pine ink on here that I've blended onto these leaves just at the base and coming up into the tips here. And then I've done some shimmer brush on that as well. And I want to make sure that I've got the right side that I'm going to be doing the treatment on. So you can see how these layer together. Absolutely beautiful, these flowers. So now I'm going to bring in my pine ink, and I'm coming in once again to do the bottom section of that leaf because that is where the shadow would be. So I'm just trying to move it around here on the white. I think you can see this bottom section here is getting a lovely tone to it to give a light section at the top. And I'm just going to do a bit at the base of this flower, just to deepen that up a little bit. And I've got my Jade shimmer brush this time. I think adding the shimmer splatters really adds a beautiful touch to this. And now I'm going to talk about the title and the treatment that I am doing to all the toffee pieces that are contained within this layout. And with the title, I have changed it. So instead of Easter Wishes, I've created a title and I've made another banner and just cut this out of here. And I've used the font called Thick, and I've got Love, this, and then I've got Moment, and then I added a little heart onto the end of this T and welded that together. But when I put these onto the actual layouts, I'll just move this up so that you can have a look. I found that the toffee was a little bit flat, so I'm going to distress the edges of this a little bit, and I'm bringing in my toffee ink pad. And for this, instead of using a blending brush where you bring more ink onto items, I'm actually using a mini blending tool, and I'm just going around the edges of all of this, making sure that I go inside this area here. You can see I've gone inside where this inverted circle element is, and I'm going to continue going all the way around the edge of this, and then I will adhere the rest of the title on top of this once I've put this onto the white background piece. So I'm going to assemble all of this with Love This Moment onto this white banner so that this comes through. If I did it straight onto this trellis piece, it doesn't really stand out enough, so that's why I've done an additional white banner piece here. And then I'm going to assemble these pieces together for my florals. You can see I've got most of this laid out here, but I just wanted to show you a little trick with adhering some floral elements and some leaves when you're tucking them in and around things. Now, obviously, my photos aren't on here as yet, and I've kept pretty much true to the original design. I haven't got them all spaced out across here. I wanted them grouped together to make sort of clusters of them rather than having a border of them going across here. So what I normally do is just hold with my fingers the areas that I don't want to put any adhesive on. Now, one thing you want to make sure when you're doing something that has a cutout piece or a layered piece behind it, you need to be a little bit more generous with your adhesive. I've been quite generous with my adhesive on my photo mats here because this is a textured background and I want to make sure that everything will stay adhered once I put these in my albums. So this one I'm going to tuck so that it comes out this way, so I don't want any adhesive on this part here. What I'm also doing is draping some of these elements, I've done it on this side here, across the top of this banner strip with the title. So that brings the greenery into the title, helps break up this space here. And with my floral elements, all the leaves and stems are adhered direct to the page with the floral elements being popped up on foam tape. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue. So I'm applying glue to all of these areas, but the florals are going to be raised up. Now this gets tucked down and I have put some glue onto that leaf there. So I'm just going to wipe this off so that it won't adhere to my photo, and then arrange my floral element like so that I can still tuck my trimmed photo in under here. I'm going to leave this white section and I'll be trimming my photos down a little bit less than 4x6 so that there is a white mat and then the toffee mat there. The other thing that I've done a little bit differently is I've put my floral stems all the way to the edge of the base pages. So I've just trimmed off the edges. It just grounds them a bit better for me rather than having them floating up here a little bit higher. And I'm also using the Honey Bunny dots. So I'm just going to place a couple of these around these leaf elements here. I'm using the 3 different sizes, spreading the pink, the green and the yellow out. I just want one little green one. And that just finishes the clusters off nicely. So I'm going to lift this up to the camera and hopefully you can see the dimension that's going on with the flowers actually raised. And I did want to point out with this cone flower, I have used a gold metallic pen on here just to draw a few little dots for the center of the flower there. So not too many changes, especially with the photo layout. I have changed the title and I've dressed up the SVG cuts with a little bit of ink blending because I just think it brings them to life, and then adding the shimmer brush flicks really helps with this. I'm going to bring in the other layout that I've done, and I want to show you the overlay piece here that's cut out with an SVG file. So this one here is the layout. I just pointed it out before, and this is the cut you get from this. Now it's an 11.5 by 11.5 inches because Cricut has a 12-inch mat, but it will only cut to 11.5. So this is what that looks like on a page. It's got a lot of detail on here, and yes, I have saved all these extra little arrows because I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. What might be fun to do, just a suggestion, is if you cut 2 of these with different cardstocks, you could have, say, this is Toffee, this is the light side, this is the true color, which is the dark side, but you could cut one out in black and then insert these pieces once you've stuck that down, and that would make for a really good effect. You could actually leave some of them showing the background paper through here and just insert some of them. Lots of different things that you can do with this overlay piece, and of course you can also use this as a stencil. So let me flip this layout over so you can see what I've done with it, and I'm going to bring in the original artwork here from the catalogue so I can talk you through this. Now you can see there is dimension on these pieces, so I've done exactly the same thing that I showed you with the floral elements. On the globe here, this is cut from Glacier and I've used the light side. I've brought in Glacier ink from the edges and a little bit more coming up towards the bottom and blended that in from the edges. I haven't gone directly onto paper. I've always come off the edge in towards it so it blends out nicely, and I've still got my highlight in the middle. And then I brought in Lagoon ink just to give it a little bit more depth. And I've done exactly the same thing with these geo tags here. I've used Glacier to start with and then brought in Lagoon for the base of these geo tags just to give them a little bit more dimension. And you can see on the globe stand I've used Shortbread to cut this out, both the dark side and the light side, and I've used Shortbread ink to bring in a little bit of ink on this to give it a more rounded look so that the shadows are on the outside here, and also brought in Toffee ink on this section here just to give it a little bit more depth, and this helps make it pop off the page and give it a 3D look. And I did go in with my clear shimmer brush onto the globe. I'm hoping that's picking up on camera. It's a little bit hard to pick up on camera, but I can see the shimmer and shine on this piece as well as on the geo tags. I do love how the shimmer brush just adds that little extra touch to these pieces. For this one, I've kept the title just like it is, but what I've done differently is I have sliced the title out of the piece of paper, and instead of using a dark green, I've used Shortbread, and then I've ink blended into that as well to give it a little bit more depth. So cutting the title out for this one means I didn't have to try and line up all the letters, and I put a white piece behind it, and it doesn't get too busy with all the arrow cutouts from behind here. I added in a semicircle here for the journaling rather than the banners. And I didn't put these extra banners and hearts on here, and that's just a personal choice for me. I wanted this overlay section here to be the highlight, and I found putting the extra pieces on made it just a little bit too busy for my style. So that's my take on the 2 page layouts that are the SVG collections. Normally I change these up a little bit more and I create a layout that's my own design from this, but I really did love the overlays, and I've kept the photo placements the same as well because I did love the design of these 2 page layouts. It's quite wonderful when everything is already designed for you. When you bring it into your cutting machine, it's all there ready for you to cut and go. One thing I do want to mention, if you've bought digital content from Close to My Heart, make sure that you have it all downloaded to your device. As Close to My Heart is closing, I want to make sure that you all know to download your digital content and keep it on file with you. Upload it into Design Space or whatever cutting machine software that you use, and make sure that you have a copy of it online with your cutting machine. For me, it's a Cricut, so I know that I've got it in Design Space, but now with Close to My Heart closing, I also want to make sure that I have those files as well. So I downloaded all of them and put them into an external hard drive so that I know that I've got them always, no matter what cutting machine I might use in the future. If I decide to change from a Cricut to a scan and cut, then I can use those on that machine, and that's why I want to make sure that I have have the actual original files of them rather than leaving them just in design space. So it's a little bit of homework to do if you haven't done that before. I hope you can see how easy it is to put a layout together that has already been designed for you, and then you can also take all of these elements and use them over and over again. These would be gorgeous on a card for Mother's Day or for Easter and a birthday. The floral elements are just so pretty. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, happy crafting. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.